Saturday Night alum Julia Sweeney was raised as a Catholic in Spokane. Now she says she's an atheist in Hollywood. She's got lots of company, I'm sure. By the way, I'm not sure if the years of working with Lorne Michaels or making the movie Pat or what, that should have made you an atheist, right? That would have been enough.
No.
Or you are also a cancer survivor.
Yes.
True.
Right.
What turned her off to deity? Actually, none of those things. We're going to find out. Julia is in Seattle to premiere her new film about the conversion. It's called Letting Go of God, as part of the Seattle International Film Festival. Julia Sweeney, welcome to Seattle and the Bob Rivers Show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here.
It's fun. Now, are you one of those I believe in nothing atheists, or one of those I reject the, religious sort of fairy tale type stuff?
I guess it's I don't believe in the fairy tale kind of
right.
thing.
You don't buy the pearly gates.
We can't not believe. I mean, I don't believe in nothing. That's impossible. I'd have to have confidence in some things in order to function through the day. But
right. And you're a cancer survivor.
Yes.
Which is, that's got to have, what sort of change, and by the way, I don't know much about this, but
That's right.
What you had, cervical cancer, is not an easy thing to survive, right?
No, actually it is.
It is? Oh, well, I was thinking you did this amazing thing.
It's like the chest cold of the cancers.
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow, you are bold.
No, but actually I had it. It had spread to my uterus and fallopian tube. So for me, it actually was
it was a major deal to survive, yeah.
Well, yeah. And I mean,
but you don't shrug it off.
No, I'm not shrugging it off. But when, in terms of my belief in God, I was a believer when I had cancer, and I believed that it was part of my destiny to have it and survive from it. But I didn't have a huge amount. I mean, I didn't rely on that worldview a lot. I mean, I did somewhat, but I don't want to overstate my.
Right. And this movie is sort of about a journey that began for you when some Mormons came to your door. Is that right?
Well, that's how I set up the story, because that's how it happened. A couple Mormon missionaries came by my house and they asked me this question: do you believe that God loves you with all his heart? Which to them is just a rhetorical question. I actually did answer yes, because I believed, I felt that way. But I couldn't stop thinking about that question. And all the parts of it, do you believe that God loves you with all his heart? So I went through all these. So the show is kind of me analyzing that for 3 years, that question. Is it a guy or is that a metaphor? Then I took a Bible study class. Then I decided I really can't be Christian after the Bible study class. And then I become a Buddhist. And then, anyway, it's just following. Then I kind of get into a lot of New Age stuff and start getting into Deepak Chopra.
God got you through cancer and then you dissed him? You said no. I mean,
it's hard for me to understand too, Joe. Yeah. I got what I need from you now. I don't need you anymore.
Well, it's because it's an idea. I mean, it's just an idea. It's like, I do think that the idea of God can be helpful to people when they're struggling through something. But just because an idea works for somebody doesn't mean that it's a true idea. And so for me, what was the closest to truth, what was the better bet for truth, became really important. And I was willing to go with that evidence no matter where it pointed, even if it pointed to a world that was not designed or was not preordained, and there wasn't someone in the sky watching my life, which is the conclusion that I came to. Yeah. So that's what the journey is.
Adopted a little girl from China.
That's not being a good person. No,
that's a nice thing.
Yeah, but it was nice for me too.
Eric is trying to adopt now and finding it rather difficult. Can you give him any tips?
Yeah, I've been at this for about 3 years now.
Yeah, it took me about 3 years too. Well, it took me about a year to just figure out the whole, market of children.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
I mean, it is. I mean, it really is.
You do one-woman shows a lot, right?
Yeah, I have been the last 10 years.
You have 3 of them?
Yes, 3.
What are they about?
The first one's God Said Ha. That's all about my brother getting cancer and me getting cancer and my parents moving in with us.
And you just go on stage and talk about that?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the second one was called In the Family Way, and that was all about me deciding I wanted to have a child and figuring out how I did it, and then the beginning of me being a single mother. That's In the Family Way. And then the third one is Letting Go of God, and that's all about me searching for God.
These are all one. And so now, in Letting Go of God, tell us a little bit about what, it's not like a one-woman show on film, is it?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh, it is. It's all you.
It's a film it's sort of like Spalding Gray did. It's just it's a monologue that's filmed. So it's a film of a stage performance. So it's not a traditional movie.
Got
like,
it. But you won the Silver Space Needle once, didn't you? Or the Gold Space Needle?
Golden or something.
Whatever they call it.
10 years ago, in 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying that I think of my monologues like children, and I feel like my third child, letting go of God, I don't want it to know about the oldest child winning the Golden Space Needle Award, because I think my youngest child's going to get very jealous about that if it doesn't win.
And the movies or the solo shows are your children, in a sense.
They are, because I end up spending so much time, and they go through all these stages of growing up, and then they go, like, I feel like once they're a film, it's like they got into college. I can say goodbye. They can go live in the world on their own. You know?
Now, I'm a pretty big believer in God, but I'm not the kind that would ever knock on your door or anything, Julia, and I'm not one to, push my agenda, and I don't particularly care what other people believe. I'm also a believer in UFOs and Bigfoot. How do you feel about them?
I think that's very typical, because it reflects critical thinking skills that would lead you to those beliefs, which I think have similar amounts of evidence.
Ooh, that sounds like a diss joke.
I'm the first to admit there has been a Bigfoot in my yard, although I didn't see him, and I've never really seen Martian or anything. I have seen things in the sky.
See, there you go. I think that you've got to have a worldview like that in order to believe in God, frankly.
But with God, I've seen, things happen that I figured there's only one way you could explain it. I don't know.
Well, that's so interesting. I mean, I don't know how seriously you want me to be talking about this.
Oh, no, we're having fun.
We could just be joking around. I don't know how to keep it light or not.
Don't worry, it'll never get too serious.
That is really interesting, because people don't understand about probabilities. Like, they think that something that is very unlikely to happen, the only explanation can be that there's a supernatural answer to why it happened. But really, there's just a probability that so many times in a day, certain things are going to happen that are very unusual.
Monkey would come up with the Magna Carta eventually. I know that one. But then again, if I was God, which is easy for me to imagine, I would make it very tricky. I would not make it so people could figure it out.
Really? Why not?
Well, because that's how that's
a little devious, isn't it?
Well, you need a new game. If they figure out the game, you got a whole new game.
That's so passive aggressive.
Yeah, very funny. So, because the interesting thing about man is that, and by the way, we've all thought about this. Everyone
right?
does.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
The interesting thing about man, though, is we always think we have it figured out. We think the world is flat. We think that the stars are animals up there, and we draw pictures and shapes of them. We don't know what electricity is until we figure it out. We certainly would never have imagined the silicon chip, and we're on this explosion of now getting into subatomic particles and things like that. I'm sure you've read all of this stuff, quarks and all of that, and yet we still don't really know what the essence is. We don't. In fact, the most common thing in the universe is space, is nothing. Which is kind of interesting. Is even space in between the cells of us. Have you read all this crap? I've read all this crap. And so I don't know how you can know either way.
Well, you can't. That's true.
Yeah.
You can't know either way. But I always like to use the example that...
You're just going with the you like making a bet on the odds.
Yeah, like anyone does. Like, somebody could come to you and say, there is a purple teapot that is flying around Saturn. No one can see it because it's invisible. But it's a huge purple teapot.
By the way. That's the basis of the Mormon faith.
Then, do you believe that's true or not? Now, you can't really know if there's a huge purple teapot flying around Saturn, but you can look at the evidence and say, I bet there isn't. And I'm going to go with that. So that's the way I...
And this is so funny, because you and Joe actually are perfect at opposite ends of it. You're like, show me the teapot. Joe's saying, Bigfoot, I love him. I know he's there.
My man.
He's my man. And what if your mind actually makes it true?
Well, that's another really interesting area, because I think belief in God can be helpful for people. It doesn't mean that, I think on balance it's detrimental and horrible, but I think it can be believing that somebody's looking out for you and helping you and is going to help you survive in difficult times. We evolve to have that feeling because it's a useful feeling to have. Now, that doesn't mean it's true, but I think there's really is something to be said for it being a useful worldview.
How's the movie?
For some people,
Julia
not
Sweeney, whose film Letting Go of God is having its world premiere at SIFF. We'll put a link on our website.
Okay, great. Thanks
Nice
so
to meet
much.
you.